I think your two last chapters are prophetic and challenging in a very powerful way. Your chapter on radical openness to the other. In a more connected world, we are less and less open to each other because I connect only with those who will agree with me. I have my bubble, my echo chamber, as they say, particularly in social media. And you express very clearly in the book that reconciliation is not only about mending broken relationships, but about building new relationships or establishing relationships more deeply. In fact, you say the whole essence of Christianity can be summarized in the words radical openness to others. I think some people might say, oh, really? Where do you find evidence of that in the Bible?
I would say that, again, I will begin from the creation.
Yes.
And it's about the other, because God is God. I believe God is God without the creation. God is still God.
Oh, yes.
Without creating. So definitely creation is an affirmation of the other, and God enjoys. And along with that comes the diversity and dependence, because the way the Genesis 1 is narrated is it's not that simply God produces things, adds things, but then one depends on the other. And then the diversity is not disliked. The physical darkness and light, water and the land. So that diversity. So I would say that creation has that. Then definitely incarnation is about the other. The very incarnation is God becoming the other, but it is also, again, the sole purpose of the incarnation is the redemption of human beings. It's done for others. And as Jesus says, it's not my will, but yours. So it's completely about the other. And I would say that when resurrection is also for the other, and it's a hope for new life. And so I would say that at least these three major theological trends, there are a lot, but the creation, incarnation, and resurrection, I would say that it's all about the other, and that shows God's openness to the others and invites us.
I suppose one could also argue that at Pentecost, one sees there the need. We are called to radical openness to the Spirit.
Yes.
So that the Spirit can transform us.
Yeah, and diversity. Yes.
And diversity in all sorts of different ways, without making us just clones.
Yes.
And that's extraordinary. If I were to take an example of the difficulty, a historic example, the difficulty of seeing God on the other side, you and I both know that in 1914, at the beginning of the First World War, the theologians, the bishops in Germany, in Britain, in France, Russia, the rest of Europe, all declared firmly that God was on their side and very definitely not on the other side. And the German theologians' support for the war was one of the reasons that Karl Barth went back to Switzerland. In such an atmosphere, how could they have seen God on the other side? How could they have done that great act which would have enabled people to avoid or that same commitment to war?
Like the Jonah question, like I struggle with what Jonah did. I would say that perhaps when I was writing the Lent book, maybe this particular study was really challenging for me because the simple reason that it's not easy.
No.
Because we always want God, when we pray, after that, even when we do the family prayers, I used to kind of think how we pray. And because anything about prayer, blessings, we think that's all like, God with us, God for us, God give us. And in the wider context of conflicts and reconciliation, it's really not easy to think that God is also on the other side. But then the Israelites thought, as you said, the First World War and many conflicts, and in the Bible, Israelites thought. But then the interesting thing is that God always reminded them that God is also on the other side. And actually something, maybe when I was very small, the one verse that attracted me is don't hate the Edomites or the Esau, because he is your brother. And
He is your brother.
because as a small boy, I read about Jacob, everything about Jacob, and then suddenly when I read this verse, there's God who is on the other side. Things about and in Luke 4 especially, this Luke 4 reflection happened when I was in Jerusalem. We were going to Nazareth, and as I was approaching with Nazareth, and this reflection came. What happens in Luke 4 when Jesus mentions about the healing of Naaman and the Sariphat, the widow from Sariphat, they get furious. Only few verses before they say, "Oh, gracious words," from Jesus when he read the Nazareth Manifesto. And suddenly when he talks about God's involvement with others,
They get really upset.
furious, and they go to the extent of killing him.
Yes.
And so that's what it was also, I mean, difficult for me. Practically, people really find it difficult. No, only God can do my battle. God can be with me. And there are lots of stories in the everyday church life when somebody says that, "Oh, if you are against me, then God will be against you." This kind of stories but the Bible has full of, I mean, what Jesus does and what happens in the Old Testament, all so that God and the very word, the very phrase, "other side." Let us go to the other side. Jesus tells that again and again.
He does, and across to a place where he shouldn't really be.